Ladies and gents, and in today's video we're going to talk about this betrayal as American household budgets are now on life support. I can't see anything in the chat, so hopefully we are live here. There's usually a busy chat. Just while we're waiting to see if everyone is on, I'm seeing stuff coming through. The stock market program and the wealth psychology are about to come off sale. So if you did want to get either of those programs, the link is below in the description. They are going back up in price very shortly. The Cashflow Mastery course will stay on sale for a little while longer, just until I finish recording it. So just a fair warning on that. So let's go over to the shared screen then. And I don't know if you've seen these news articles that I have seen, but here's one. This is 7 European countries to shut down all CO2 emitting power plants by 2035. Look how happy all of these people look. Aren't they just so happy about this? Yes, they just can't wait for all of this. And we're going to get onto the US stuff in a second. Germany shuts 7 coal power stations after winter ends. Taipei News, second to last nuclear reactor shut down. This is all in aid of climate change, as they call it. I think they call it now global boiling, actually. They've changed it, even though it's been freezing cold most of the year, but that's what they're now calling it. 150 mini steel plants shut down indefinitely over costs. Slovakia plans to be coal-free by 2024, 6 years earlier than originally planned. Are you starting to see this pattern yet? Adani power plant in India shut down, may leave Bangladesh with a power shortage. Nuclear power plant preventively shut down. Powering down, end times for the, that's a funny headline, isn't it? The end times for the UK's final coal-fired station. New England, largest fossil fuel electric plant, is shutting down. So everyone's very happy about all of this. You're not going to be happy in a minute when I tell you what the impact of all of this has been. Another one closing down. Pennsylvania navigates an uncertain future after its coal plant closes. Workers at the UK's last coal-fired plant prepared to say goodbye. And then we have had this just come out of Bloomberg. You reap what you sow, ladies and gentlemen. Almost 20% of Americans are now facing the prospect of higher electricity bills. PJM set to release pricing details for securing a power supply. And now these big power companies are going to be earning huge premiums in the auction because all of the power has been closed down. And I was amazed that when Biden was actually asked about this, we'll go back to the stories in a second, he said he was very proud of the legacy that he has left. And the reporter was saying, but, you know, Mr. President, you realize that prices have gone up 20% more in some areas because of this net zero pledge, and to destroy all of our fossil fuel energy, even though it's not fossil. I know we've people always they always talk about it being fossils. You look into that. There's something to look into. They say it's all made from fossils, the decay of fossils. Have a look into that. You might find something interesting. But he said he's very proud of this, and that even though they haven't ramped up the supply of energy for all the renewables, the grid isn't ready, and now there's all the electric cars. That's an interesting one as well, because what's happened is the fuel duty, so the taxes on all of the fuel, or what I think you call it gas in America and Canada, have dropped so much, especially in California. Now they said they're going to start taxing electric vehicles for the miles that they drive. So this whole thing about saving money, saving the planet, etc. Now is a big U-turn. They're going to start taxing people based on how many miles they drive, and they're going to put all these trackers in the car and all this weird stuff. I knew this was going to happen, but alas, here we are. So now we've got all these issues, and American household budgets are getting absolutely destroyed. And I'll show you the evidence of that, because we've got the surveys that have now come out. Here we go. More than 65 million Americans are facing the prospect of significantly higher electricity prices next year, thanks to shrinking energy supply and rising demand on the biggest US electric grid. Now, this should have been obvious that with AI and data centers, there would be a huge demand. I think they knew this, but they didn't do anything about it. An increase for the year starting in June would follow a power auction held in 2023 that saw prices come in at a decade low of 28.92 per megawatt day. Now, this time around, analysts predict prices could be 2 to 4 times higher because of all the things we've just talked about. We've also got closures of coal and natural gas-fired plants, and this will remove about 4 gigawatts of generating capacity from the grid. That's enough to power 3.2 million homes. So this is specific to one sort of region here. And they also talk about the data centers that are being built in Virginia. So Virginia is going to have an issue. The power grid operator is tasked with coordinating with power plants and utilities and managing a grid that stretches from New Jersey to Illinois. They hold auctions to ensure sufficient supply. Prices that emerge from those auctions are charged to homes and businesses through their utility bills. More than a dozen market observers, from analysts to financiers, surveyed by Bloomberg, see grid-wide price rises compared to last year's auction. Expectations vary significantly, ranging from $35 to $125 a megawatt day. So this is where we are going. And a lot of people have been asked and interviewed, and they're all saying the same thing. I am worried about cost increases. They've been expressing concerns about supply and demand mismatch for quite some time now. But of course, this doesn't make any difference. The rise of US energy costs. So I've grabbed this from Statista, which is pretty good for statistics here. And it shows you that the prices from piped gas per therm have gone up from $1.07 up to $1.45. Gasoline per gallon on average $2.63 up to $3.35. Although some places I've seen this as high as $6 at the moment. What else do we have? 30 kilowatt hours of electricity, $4 now, $5.20. And these prices are just going to keep going up. Bloomberg again, power bills will keep rising even after the Fed tames inflation, as utilities shell out to fortify, decarbonize and expand their grids. US taxpayers are footing the bill. So who is it? So the companies are benefiting from all of this, but it's the US taxpayers that are paying. So they're the ones that are I mean, it's the oldest trick in the book. You get the taxpayers to pay for all of this. And again, it's got this guy, Alfredo. He grows increasingly frustrated when his electricity bill arrives each month. Price gains for groceries and other household essentials have eased in the past year, but the rising cost of power is still eating into his budget. Food has been a worry, but now electricity is the worry, said the 75-year-old retiree. Unless you want to go to candles and firewood, we've got no other choice but to bite the bullet and pay. There we go. He's from Oakland, California. That tells you everything you need to know. It's the biggest electricity provider, which has hiked bills for residential customers 13% just in January alone. And it says more increases may be coming this year. Look at this beautiful countryside. Goodness me. Now we've got oil price as well. They've just announced a survey. Most Americans are concerned about rising energy bills. A total of 78% of Americans, this is the CNET survey, which I'll show you in a moment, are concerned about their rising energy bills. About 80% of US adults in all regions, including Northwest, Midwest, South, and West, said that their finances have been impacted by growing home energy costs. This is according to the CNET survey. Moreover, 32% of Americans are leaning on borrowing, payment plans, or assistance programs just so they can afford energy. Another 39% are cutting on non-essential purchases. 24% are cutting on essentials to cope with the rising energy costs. Groceries, gas, dining out, utilities, These are the biggest, what they call sticker shocks for Americans, more than 90% of whom are worried about inflation. Now, we've got the survey here, and I'll just talk about the key findings, actually. This is 78% of US adults are concerned about the cost, 32% are borrowing, 70% are taking steps to become more energy efficient, and 32% are concerned about the cost of energy efficient projects. Let's see if we have, yeah, here we go. So this is not, I mean, this is a pattern now. It shows you the evidence here. Which of the following is true? Only the people in red, so this is around 20 to 23% here, said that their finances are not really impacted by rising energy costs. But if you look at the green, this says my finances were or have been slightly or very impacted. Look at the green. It is the majority. It is 80% of people now are struggling or they're worried about what is happening. And it's clear most Americans are struggling to pay rising energy bills. And this is just going to get worse. How do you plan to pay for your home energy bills? Cut back on essentials, 39%. Oh, sorry, non-essentials, 39%. On essentials is 24%. Use a payment plan, 19%. Credit cards, 16%. Savings, 15%. Increased income, 13%. See, this is worrying. This is only going to get worse, ladies and gents. And then Biden environmental agenda under fire for increasing the cost for Americans. This is a very strong statement that's been put out. The Biden administration weaponized the power of the executive branch to wage a war against American-made energy production and cement in place radical far-left energy policies that jeopardize domestic energy development, overload America's power grid, and raise costs on all American consumers and businesses. In particular, his recent pause on LNG gas exports, elevated gas prices, and the aggressive push towards transitioning towards electric energy are among the main criticisms that have been lobbed at Biden. Fairly accurate, I would say, in terms of that statement when you look at the facts here. And then you can look at the price increases as well. Here's 2008 to 2023 based on the different states. What do you notice? There is a correlation based on these fairly radical proposals to just close all the energy, the power plants, even before they've got renewables set up. It's crazy to do something like that before you've got everything in place. US electricity prices rise again as AI onshoring may mean decades of power demand growth. So this could go on for decades because we know that the AI is going to require more power, and the energy centers, the data centers, electric vehicles, heat pumps, they're driving consumer electricity demand higher, while industrial onshoring and the rise of data centers and AI are putting pressure on prices. Now, this is from the Bank of America Global Research. They estimate AI computing will require an additional 18 gigawatts to 28 gigawatts of generation capacity by 2026. Again, you can look at the average price per kilowatt hour in US city average, look where it was, and look where it is now. It is just skyrocketing under these new policies. This was another one as well. The German economy, this just came out not long ago, unexpectedly shrinks and inflation has gone higher. Now, that's interesting because that was exactly my forecast as to what would happen with the German economy. Even though I know a lot of people thought that was a crazy forecast because it's Germany and they're a powerhouse, but all of those sanctions and the energy and everything else has really destroyed Germany's economy, especially their industrial economy. And what are we seeing now? We're seeing the inflation going up. They're having to import a lot more expensive energy. We're seeing all the issues with the German economy, even though they're moving over to a more militarized economy now, which I think will ramp up when they see the benefits of that. And again, I don't mean the benefits of creating a military output, because obviously we we don't, well, we know how that is used. It's a death and destruction. But what I mean is the benefit to the GDP of the country. So it's going to be interesting to see if they do a U-turn. I think it's going to be hard because of the EU laws and policies and the sheer power that the EU has over Germany. But we'll see what happens with some of the other countries. Some of them just don't care. Some of them have just said whatever, basically, to the EU, and they are buying Russian energy. They're buying Russian oil and gas and other things. And we talked about the problem that's going on at the moment where Ukraine is stopping the flow coming through. And now I think it's the Slovak prime minister that said, well, if you're going to do that, we're going to cut off all of your diesel then. So it looks like things are getting a little bit tense over all of these rules coming in. What else did we have? In terms of grocery prices then, this was an interesting one. This $444 receipt from Trader Joe's goes viral on social media. This was it here.
Here's what it takes to feed 6 kids in about a week and a half. You want to have 6 kids? This is your Trader Joe's receipt. Keep going. Oh my God.
I mean, that is crazy. $444 for this man to feed his family. However, I would say, having lived in California, Trader Joe's is very, very expensive. There are alternatives. I mean, some of this is just common sense, but you know, there's alternative places you can shop and buy raw ingredients and cook and save a lot of money that way. I think people should probably point that out. But that's not the point. The point is, you look at the prices, they have just exploded. Grocery prices across the US are so insane compared to Europe and even where I live that it's just mind-blowing. I remember not long ago when I was in the US and I bought some, you know, just some basic food items. And I couldn't believe the prices when I bought some fruit or I bought some vegetables. I just couldn't believe the price, and they weren't even organic, and they weren't, you know, I just couldn't believe it anyway, compared to Europe and where I live, where you can get a lot more organic food and it's a lot lower price. So it's just, we can see what's happening, and this is all around, and we're going back years now. I realize that we're going back years when I first talked about how inflation would keep ticking up in the US, and you're going to really see it happen heavily as the BRICS countries. This is something to pay attention to. As the BRICS countries really ramp up their exchanges and they create their own currency between a digital currency, and then you'll see less usage on the US dollar. This is going to take a long time to play out, by the way. It's not going to happen in months. It probably won't even happen in years, but it will happen in time. And what you'll see is all those dollars that are, you know, living all around the world are eventually going to flow back to the US, and you're going to have a massive supply of dollars coming back in, and you're just going to have inflation like you just cannot even imagine. But this is not, again, I don't want to be too alarmist here. It's not going to happen today. It's not going to happen tomorrow, and it's probably not going to happen for the very foreseeable future, but it will eventually happen. It's already happening, and this is another reason you're seeing prices just going up and up and up compared to other places. You're just not seeing this incredible level of inflation on certain things. A lot of it are these crazy policies as well, though, that we've already talked about. So let's see what happens in the November election. Gosh, I shouldn't have said November election on YouTube. Now this video is going to get they're going to probably shadow ban it or something. Never say those keywords on YouTube. But anyway, we'll see what happens, especially if it changes to a new president and a new party. We'll see, because he's already said he's going to ramp up the energy on day one and reverse a lot of these policies. So let's see what happens anyway. There's a lot more I could talk about, but I think we'll wrap it up for there today, because there's just so much going on that it's just a mountain of news and just escalation all around the world. I didn't even get into all the war and conflict and escalation today, because I wanted to just keep it fairly simple today, but we'll talk about that another day. All right, take care. God bless you guys. See you soon.